And joining us now is Frank Granito. He is an aviation attorney who represented 60 families who were on board, who were lost family members on Flight 800. And also with us is Heidi Snow, who lost her fiancé in that disaster. And Heidi, I watched you watching that tape. Was that hard to watch again?
It always is.
It is, isn't it?
And certainly after 10 years, it really brings it home.
I bet it does. Frank, tell me about this investigation and this final determination on the cause. You satisfied still? Because there's certainly people who have many, many theories out there. You see them on the internet. Are you satisfied that it was this wiring that caused this spark that lit up that center fuel tank?
I don't think that anyone can say with any degree of certainty what the initiating event was in terms of the spark. That may be the closest they're going to get to that answer. But the problem, and the problem that still exists, is the fuel air vapors within the fuel tank. The industry's solution is to attempt to eliminate ignition sources, and that's failed.
So that you would say that even that we know the cause of this crash, that not enough has been done to prevent another accident like this one?
Absolutely correct. We have to get the fuel air mixture out of the fuel tank. We've already had 4 incidents of fuel tank explosions on civil aircraft since 1996, including TWA 800.
Do you worry it could happen again?
Oh, sure. Especially with the older airplanes. We know that the wiring is a problem. You've got bundles of wires that chafe, arc, and potentially can introduce a sufficient energy source into the center tank. And you have to understand, when these vapors build up, all it takes is the amount of energy of dropping a dime on a tile floor to create the spark.
Sparks can easily be created. They talked about arcing,
correct,
causing that spark. Heidi, I know you lost your fiancé, Michael, and he was a French national. Frenchman, right?
Right.
Yeah. And after this happened, you were frustrated because there was really no place to turn, right?
Yeah, after the site closed down a few weeks later, I just remember going home and trying to go back to work and hanging out with my friends. I was 24 at the time, and nobody around me seemed to really understand what it was like. And so Giuliani's office actually referred me to the families of Pan Am 103, and they invited me to a meeting they were having. And when I went there, I met another fiancé who really seemed to understand what I was going through. And when I'd cry, she wouldn't tell me to stop crying. She would say, "Oh, that's normal. You're doing okay." And at that point, a lot of my friends, they were like, "Oh, it's been about a month or so. You should be better now." And it's very frustrating for them. I know they meant the best for me.
Is it different losing a loved one in an aviation disaster versus a car crash or any other accident? Is there something different to it?
I think what's different is the amount of time it takes to figure out what actually occurred. Oftentimes, well, with Flight 800, it took almost a year for all the bodies to be identified. And that process, until you have that final confirmation, there may be a manifest. It can be really, there's still a little hope that you hold out if there's no confirmation and other people have been found, but your loved one hasn't been found. And I think it has to do with the amount of time that it takes and a lot of the attention it gets in the media. And it's a fear that a lot of people have. And so when it actually happens and you're immediately to you, I think it's extremely difficult to understand why.
You find that the case with families that you've worked with? You've worked with a number of these families.
Sure. I mean, I think it's the sudden loss, the fact that all of a sudden you're also thrown into a media spotlight. There's a tremendous amount of attention, especially with a large commercial aviation crash, because of the tragedy of it.
And you started this group, Heidi, that now helps other families who go through aviation disasters, right?
Right. After feeling what I remembered feeling when I went and met with the Pan Am families, I said, you've been really helpful to me, and I have a feeling that you could do the same for a lot of the people from TWA Flight 800. So when I went to this meeting, everybody wrote down their name and phone number and said, if there's somebody I can help, we're here and we've been through it before.
And you named this organization?
It's called AirCraft Casualty Emotional Support Services.
Emotional Support Service. So it's still around today?
It's around 10 years later, and we have volunteers all around the country and around the world, actually, who have lost people in past disasters who volunteer to help people from more recent ones. So a mother from Flight 800 helps a mother from 9/11.
So this organization has actually helped people from 9/11 too, because
all air
was aviation disasters as well.
Right, and even people from the building called us because our structure was set up, and basically all of our mentors said, you know, it's an air disaster related tragedy and we're here. So since our hotline was up and running, we began getting calls immediately from people who lost people in the building as well. And we've gotten calls from people from disasters going back as far as 1958, just saying, you know, I never had anybody to talk to who got it.
Yeah. What should people remember on this anniversary? What should people think about? And you know, you mentioned this could happen again.
Well,
is this a reminder to, you know,
it's an industry that's slow to change. We haven't learned the lessons. This goes back to 1969 when Ralph Nader said to the FAA, you got to get the fuel vapors out of the tanks. And the industry defeated the effort in '69. The industry is attempting to defeat it now in 2006.
Okay, important to know this. Okay, thank you both for being with us this morning.
Thank
we appreciate
you.
it. Our thoughts are with you and with the other families as well. And that's going to do it for this edition of Up Close. I'm Diana Williams. Thanks to all of our guests, and we thank you for watching. For all the day's news, be sure to watch Eyewitness News tonight at 6 and 11. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.